for jobs. Whoops. Or for jobs. And so public speaking and debate skills and writing skills, these are things that are transferable to anything you do in life. So students will absolutely be able to use the skills they learn in my class, even if they're just doing the public speaking or debate 101 classes, and they might not necessarily be competing. Once the kids are a little bit older, so when we get to maybe grades 4 and 5, and then especially when they're in middle school, we'll start to focus a little bit more on competition events. And there are 3 particular competition events that we're going to focus on. We're going to be focusing on extemporaneous speaking and extemporaneous debate. And the idea behind that event is you get a question about current events. It could be literally any current event, and it's usually something more cerebral. So instead of getting asked about Kim Kardashian's new dress, you're probably going to be asked about Joe Biden's foreign policy in Afghanistan. And you get 30 minutes to put together a 7-minute speech that answers that question using about 10 sources, maybe 15 sources, and no notes. And the whole thing has to be memorized. Sounds super daunting, but don't worry, I've coached hundreds of students at this point, some to the state and national championship level. And even students who have never done it before have gotten great benefits from that. They learn a ton about the world around them. They learn how to speak confidently in public, especially on the fly. So that's going to be a primary focus. We're also going to be focusing on original oratory in the public speaking classes. So that's my favorite event. That's what you think of when you think of a classic public speaking competition. If you've ever seen a TED Talk, imagine a competitive TED Talk. That's kind of what original oratory is. That's the event that I won when I was in high school. And the last one we're going to be focusing on is public forum debate. So in the debate classes, we're going to be focusing a little bit on 2v2 debates. They have a resolution, and one side is pro, one side is con. They pull up cards. They have plenty of time to prep it. And basically, whoever wins that debate, according to the judge, moves on to the next round. It's like a typical head-to-head tournament style. So those are the things they're going to be focused on in the competition classes highlighted below. And even if they don't want to compete, they don't have to, because all of the skills they learn in these events will be transferable to anything they do in life. We don't offer classes for kids as young as 5 because, I mean, they just learned to speak, let alone speak in public, which for even adults is one of the most common fears. So what I would recommend for kids as young as 5, and especially in terms of speaking with a positive tone and having kind of that warm, engaging attitude, that's something that if they just watch a lot of speeches, and maybe if they have an older sibling who wants to join one of our classes, if they're just surrounded by people giving speeches, talking in this very enthusiastic, positive tone, they're for sure going to start to pick up on that kind of way of speaking. And that's the way it is for a lot of speech students. Usually when they start, they're not really sure how to be talking. Usually it's a little bit monotone, but then as they go to tournaments, that's the beauty of tournaments, is they can watch more seasoned competitors and they can see how they talk. And slowly they'll start to build both their own personal, like, kind of method of delivering their speeches, but at the same time, it fits this really well orchestrated mold that has been time tested. About 5 to 10 students in the class, maybe bumping up to 12 if there's a lot of interest, and that's totally fine. It's actually a good thing to have a lot of students. There's some pros to having a lot of students and some pros to having on the lower end of amount of students. So if there are a lot of students, that gives a ton of opportunity for, like I was saying, watching other people perform, having more interactive discussions, and ultimately being able to learn from each other and not just from me. Because while I do believe I'm a good coach, I think that there's no better coach than learning from your peers. On the other hand, though, when it's a smaller class, they'll get way more individualized attention. So especially for events like original oratory, where they'll have to write and memorize a full speech, they're going to need a lot of one-on-one attention. And that's exactly where the smaller class sizes will help a lot. And it's variable, but there's huge pros to both. So it depends on the event. For the limited preparation event, so think the extemporaneous speaking event where they don't know what they're going to be talking about until 30 minutes beforehand, that they can probably get ready for in about a month. and then they'll be ready. And if they really want to be competitive, they'll start to see that kind of progress around month 2. For the events where they'll have to write and memorize something fully beforehand, so think original oratory or public forum, that's going to take a little bit longer because it's going to take a while for them to both write their entire case or write their entire speech and memorize it and rehearse it. So there's a lot more work that goes on before the competition for those prepared events. However, once they have those speeches prepared, it's pretty much just that speech for the rest of their time competing, at least for the year. And so once they have that done, it's way less work. Whereas for the limited preparation events like extemporaneous, it could potentially take months and even years before they really start to become a top level competitor. I would say that, there's not necessarily one that's better to start with. I think it depends on what the student is more interested in. So if the student is really interested in learning about argumentation and how to pick apart somebody's argument and convince them using logic, I would say take them on the debate route. I think that the debate route is for sure the way to learn how to actually construct arguments. But if there's somebody who wants to focus more on the presentational aspect of things, right? The delivery, the warm intonation and the gestures and all of that, you're not going to get any of that really in debate. That's not even accounted for really in competitions. In public speaking, that's like at least half of what the judges look for. So it really depends what they want to either work on. If there's somebody who's a little bit shy, maybe public speaking will be good to break them out of their shell. Or if there's somebody who are super into current events, let's just say, then a really happy medium would be doing either public speaking or debate, because extemporaneous is going to be similar for both. And that has a good balance of kind of that delivery aspect of things, but also constructing arguments and being able to pick apart what's wrong with what people are saying.